So, hello everyone. Welcome to the YouTube channel of the subject software engineering semester 5 in the computer engineering. Okay, so as you know, we already have covered the couple of chapters before this: introduction, software engineering processes, software engineering models. In the last week lecture, we have covered the project management, which include the people, product, and the process. Okay, so. As you know, we have gone through the software processing models, in which we have seen that the different models like waterfall model, iterative model, spiral model, prototyping model. We have seen the use cases, where to use which model, like for which situation would be best to use the waterfall model, which situation would be best to use the spiral model, and all this thing. So we already have gone through that. Okay, so there is a one more model that is remaining, that was remaining, that is part, that is a really important, and that is going to be used in nowadays. That is a agile development methodology, agile software development methodology. So we have the separate chapter. So welcome to the channel. We will be covering this agile agile software development methodology in today's lecture. So let's move towards. So this is a topic we will be covering: agile methods, agile development techniques, agile project management, and the scaling and agile methods. So we don't have everything to be covered in this syllabus, but we have to go through about what is the agile methodology. So let me go through. It is a really important methodology, and nowadays most of the companies are adapting this methodology for developing a software to their company, right? So this is also called as the rapid software development. Rapid software development and delivery is now often the most important requirement for the software system. See, this is the most important thing. It is not only like you are developing a software, it is how much fast you are able to deliver. Let's say if you are able to do the software in 6 months, but another company is ready to do that, to give that software with the same quality within the 3 months, so they will always be preferable. So in this competitive world, in this very much competitive world of this industry, the rapid development and the delivery is now the often most important requirement for software systems. Business operate in a fast changing requirement, and it is a practically impossible to produce a set of stable requirements. Okay, so like as we have seen the so many software as we have seen the so many software engineering practices like waterfall model, where we were identifying that when to use a software model, so that waterfall model, when the requirements are well much clear, but in nowadays we cannot say that the requirement will be fully like given to the developer. Okay, this is my requirement and you have to develop the thing like this. Okay, so this is a very much less feasible. The requirement gets clear once we start do the coding, once we start do the implementing the stuff. So the software has to be very quickly to reflect the changing business needs. So it happens that, so initially clients say you, I want to develop this, if in the quick time you are developing that, but once you develop something, right? So once you sorry so once you develop something, it might be possible that the client will tell you that he wants to change the requirement. Now he wants to do the change on this part. Okay, so uh, this is the exactly the particular thing we have to keep in mind. Okay, so in today's world it is really important. So we have to be very much fast for developing a software, and we have to be adaptive to the change of any software. Okay, then we have the plan driven development is essential for some types of system, but does not meet the business need. Yes, we have seen that all the software planning on the requirement gatherings, all the making the document, yes, it is needed, but most of the business does not need exactly. They need a software that should be quickly developed with the quality. Okay, so if you are like doing all this process and all that stuff, yes, you are doing good, but ultimately you are not meeting the end business goals. Okay, that is why for after all this there is a new development methodology comes, that is a rapid software development. That is also we are telling as a agile software development methodology. Then the agile development methods emerged in the late, yes, we have seen the history in the 1990s, so let's skip that. Okay, then the program specification, design and the implementation are interleaved. The program specification, yes, it is considered, but they we more focus on like delivering the product. When we get the requirement, all this thing happens, requirement specification, analyzing the product, analyzing the requirement and doing the implementation. Yes, all this thing happen, but in the quick time, because ultimate focus is to deliver the product as soon as possible. The system is developed as a series of versions or increments with the stakeholders involved in a version specification and evaluation. So here the client will be closely connected with the development, and the small versions will be given to the client. Let's say any software comes to you, yes, client will give you the whole requirement, but after you develop a certain, but after you, let's say, start doing a coding after a completion of one day, a client will come and see your development. If it is good for you, it is fine. Otherwise, he will like a move ahead. So this is the thing that should be understood. So the system is developed as a series of the system is developed as a series of version. Okay, the frequent delivery of a new version for evaluation. Yes, the always the expectation would be the first external tool supports like automation testing tools used to support the development. uh, yes, the testing is there, and there are some automation testing tool which will do the testing automatically, that will be used to boost the development speed and the minimal documentation. The focus on the working code, so as I told you, the focus on the delivery code, yes, there will be a documentation, but the weightage on the documentation will be very much less. The delivery will be very much more. So that is the reason why most of the companies are accepting this agile development methodology, right? Then this is the architecture, like there is a comparison between the plan based development, like the development process we have seen, like compare it with a waterfall model, and this is agile development. There is a requirement engineering connected with the requirement specification, connected with the design and implementation. So you can see there is so many of processes, there are so many of phases, there are so many of documents are going here. While in the case of agile development, we get the requirement, we just do the implementation. If the requirement changes, change the implementation. So this is a very much fast process in the case of implementation. So less focus on the documentation, the more focus on the implementation. This is what exactly about the agile development. So I hope you are more clear now on this. Okay, so this the plan driven approach to software engineering is based around the separate development stages with the outputs to be produced at the each of years. We have seen that the process is divided into the each phase will give something as output. While in the case of agile development, specification, design, implementation and the testing are interleaved, and the outputs from the development processes are decided through the process of negotiation during the software development process. Ultimately, yes, there will be all the phases, but the ultimate focus will be the quick delivery of the products. The more focus on the implementation rather than the documentation, you can say that in the agile development, right? Yes, different agile methods. This is we have the history over here. We are not going in that. The principle of the agile development, the very much first thing, that is the customer involvement. The customer will be closely involved in the development process in each and every phase. Let's say if you are doing a today's work, you have to show to the customer this is what we have done, or after the couple of days you have to show to the customer where we are going, what we are developing, so that he can track the record, and he can, if we have change, let's say if you are doing a login module, you are developing a login module now. So once you're done with the login module, after the 2 days you will show it to the customer, hey, see it is fine or not. So if you have any update on that, he will update you. So what happens in the technical, like traditional, like a waterfall model, You develop a whole system and then you are showing to the customer. If he feels not happy, you have to change again the project. So this is a very really important thing. The customer involvement, that is a really a good thing. Yes, the increment delivery. Yes, we have seen that the small we are developing a software in the small phases. Once we start with the small module, when we will go into the next people, not the process. Again, I told you, the more focus on the people, the more focus on the actual working of the code than the documentation. Embrace the change. Yes, the customer is closely involved. That is why the change is quickly adaptable over here. The maintain is a simplicity. The more simplicity the development is, the faster the execution is. Okay. So this is what about the principles of the agile methodology. So these are the some theory. We are not going into that. Different techniques are on that. So now the next very much important terms come into here, that is extreme programming, covered into the agile methodology, that is comes into the a small name is that is XP, takes an extreme approach to iterative development. New versions may be built several times per day. Increments are delivered to customers every 2 weeks. All the tests must be run for every build, and the build is only accepted if tests run successfully. So what we are saying, that new version may be built several times per day. Let's say if we are like a developing a login module, so we will develop it several times until we feel that now this is a product we want to give to the customer. So in the decided time, let's say after the 5 days, we will give the product to the customer, and for every version we will test the product. For even a small 5 line of change of code, we will test the product thoroughly. So once the test is passed, then and then we will move for the next phase, that is exactly the extreme programming. Yes, that is XP. This is a flow. Select a user stories for this release, break down stories to the task, plan release, develop and integrate and test a software, release a software, evaluate the system. Again this. So what we are exactly doing, that here the whole project is divided into the stories. Now what exactly the story is nothing but a small task. Let's say if we want to define e-commerce website, then I will define a different stories. The one stories will be a login, the second story will be the product, the third story will be the card, the fourth story will be the user. So we will start with a login, will do the divide the task, plan the task, deliver the task, again pick up the second story. So this is the process where the extreme programming works on. Okay. So the principles of the extreme programming, yes, incremental planning, small release, simple design, test first driven approach, and the refactoring. So we already seen the increment planning into the agile development. This is a part of small release. We are developing with the small modules. Test driven approach or test driven approach, yes, we have seen that, and the refactoring. So this is a new term. So the test first development approach means an automated unit test framework is used to write a test for a new piece of functionality. So what we are trying to say, there is a one technique called the automation software testing, in which there is a software which will automatically test your product. So this is the type of technology where we will use the automation testing for each and every new version. Refactoring means, let's say if you are developing a login module, so every developer will have a close look at the code of the particular login module, whether that code should be updated or not. That is nothing but the refactor. We are like modifying the code for the better performance, for if it has a if it is not performing correctly. So it is like a rechecking, you can say. If it is not doing right, if it was not optimized, we will update it. That is nothing but the refactoring. The remaining the terms are the same as the agile development, right? Then we have the pair programming. Developers work in a pairs, checking each other's work. So this is the type of verification. Let's say I have developed a code, a colleague of you will verify my code, then the code will be moved forward. So this is the pair programming that is accepted here. Then we have the collective ownership. The pairs of developers work on all areas of system, so that the no island of the expertise. So this is the kind of thing, the pairs will be developed, that pairs will develop whole software module. So it will be not like that any developer will not touch a particular thing. So he will be aware about the whole the project and each and every code. Then we have the continuous integration. So there is a term called the continuous integration and the continuous deployment. Let's say if we are developing a whole e-commerce site, we are starting with a login module. So once we done with the login module, we will integrate with the system. Then we have, let's say, started with the user module. When we complete the user module, we will integrate with the login module. But then we have developed the product module. When the product module is done, we will integrate with the system. So there is a continuous integration system will be there. Then is a sustainable pace. Large amount of overtime are not considered acceptable. Yes, in this agile method, as I told you, the more focus on to the deliverables, less focus on the documents. So the pace will always be the code and the on-site customer. And the representative of the end user of the system should be available full time. So this is the thing I told you. There is a close connection between your customers and the involvement of your customer or your client within the project for any update or for the better improvement of the project. So this is a very much important topic for your exam. Extreme programming, small term XP. These are the terms for that, principles for that, incremental planning, small releases, small simple design, test first development, refactoring, pair programming, collective ownership, continuous integration, sustainable pace, and the on-site customer. Okay, so this was all this thing. I have explained all this thing. So we will move towards, so this is the story. We are not like going into the detail. So let us move towards, there is a let us move towards the another important term. So this was the theory we have already given with the example. So let us move towards the very next important term, that is a Scrum exactly. So Scrum is an agile method that focuses on managing a iterative development rather than a specific agile practice. Okay, there are the three phases in Scrum. The initial phase is an outline planning phase where you establish a general objectives for a project and design the software architecture. This is followed by the series of sprint life cycle. So this is, so Scrum you can say this is a part of a agile method, or this is the kind of thing in the IT industry in the on the managers use. So Scrum is a technique which will be considered of the different sprint. So what exactly Scrum is one type of phase to develop a software in which there will be a sprint cycle. Every sprint have some targets, like in this sprint we have this certain amount of tasks to be completed in 7 days. In the second sprint we will complete this task into the 8 days and all this thing. So this is the kind of Scrum. Okay, so there are some terminology. There will be the development, potentially shippable product increment, product backlog, and the product under. Yes, in the Scrum there will be the group of developers working into the particular Scrum. So to develop a software, a potentially shippable product increment. In the Scrum there are the different sprints. Once you complete a one sprint, ultimately you are doing a one module completed in your software. In the second sprint, in the third sprint, so every sprint you will have the something shippable. A product backlog, this is a list of to-do items which the Scrum team must tackle. So product backlog is nothing but in the Scrum there are different stories are nothing but the task. So in that so there are the three terms: the Scrum, the stories, and the sprint. Scrum is a whole project, the stories are the task, and the sprint is a time log. In the particular seven days of the sprint we have to complete, let's say, the 3 stories and the 3 tasks. So product backlog is nothing but the to-do list. You can say the stories or you can say the task. So the product owner, there will be the one owner which will be managing all the team, all the Scrum, all the sprint, and all this thing. So this is also the important term to be taken care. So the Scrum, a daily meeting, the one important thing comes, the Scrum is nothing but also a daily call, a daily meeting with all the, let's say, the 8 developers are working into the team. So there will be a Scrum call will be there to manage, to track the update of the task. The Scrum Master is responsible for ensuring the Scrum process is followed and guides the team in the effective use of Scrum. He or she is responsible for interfacing with the rest of the company and for ensuring that the Scrum team is not diverted by the outside interference. Sprint, a development iteration, as we said, sprint usually 2 to 4 weeks long. It's a collection of a task with the stories, okay, and the velocity and estimate of how much product backlog efforts that the team can deliver in a particular single sprint. So it is like in a whole Scrum project, there are the different sprint of the different times, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks. In each sprint, there are the tasks, there are the stories. So velocity is a speed of development. Let's say how much time we are completing this sprint in a 10 days. If let's say the sprint is designed in a 10 days, are we going to complete in a 10 days, 12 days, 13 days, or 14 days? So this is the thing we have to achieve, right? So these are the important days. So sprints are fixed length, normally 2 to 4 weeks. The starting point of the planning is the product backlog. Its product backlog is nothing but the to-do task completed doing in return into the product. The selection phase involves all of the project team who work with the customer to select the feature. The selection phase involves all of the project team who work with the customer to select the feature and functionality from the product backlog to be developed during the sprint. Okay. The sprint cycle is once these are agreed, the team organize themselves to develop the software. So this is the first phase to define a sprint. In that they will define a product catalog. So product catalog means in the whole software how much sprint will be there in there, which are the tasks will be there. To define a task, there will be the involvement with the client, involvement with the customer, like what you want to develop and all this thing. According to this whole the product backlog means what are the tasks to be done into the particular product backlog. Then the sprint life cycle starts. In that the team organizes themselves to develop the software. During this stage, the team is isolated from the customer and the organization, with all communication challenged through the so-called the Scrum Master. The role of the Scrum Master is to protect the development team. So ultimately, the sprint cycle is nothing but the starting of the development. The development starts, the communication will be directed to the Scrum Master, that will be called as a team leader. There will be each and every Scrum call. Let's say if we have worked today, so tomorrow morning we will have the Scrum call. We will discuss everything, what will be the yesterday's progress, what we will do today, what we will do tomorrow. This is the kind of daily meeting that we will have. Okay. So this is the kind of thing we have into the agile software development. So this is what we have into the agile software development. So let us have the quick review of this. Yes, so the agile software development, we can say it is a rapid software development, and the delivery is now often the most important. So this is, as we have discussed, the rapid software development model, in which the delivery is highly in which the delivery is required more fast comparative to this. And then the plan driven development is essential for some of the types. Okay. So agile development generally we are using because in nowadays the speed of the software development is more required apart from this process. So as of now, what we have seen, the different software development phases, which will include all the phases, which will include the documentation part, which might take the time, while the agile development will more focus on the delivery of the product. Okay. So this is the where we come the programs. Okay, so this is the kind of difference between the plan-based development and the agile development. More focus on the execution rather than the documentation. Then this is a difference between the plan-driven development and the agile development. We have already seen that, right? Then we have the dissatisfaction. Yes, we already have seen that different terminologies like customer in and the principles, customer involvement, incremental delivery, people not process, embrace the change, and maintain the simplicity. Then we have the extreme programming. We have seen that, yes, different modules of the extreme programming. Okay. Yes, we already have seen that. Then the final we will have the Scrum. Then we have the Scrum. So it's something by the whole project developed in which will be considered of sprint, stories, and the Scrum call and the Scrum master. So this is all about the agile software development process. So thank you very much for watching a video. So we'll meet in the next video with the next chapters. Thank you very much for watching a video. Have a good day. Bye.